The unexpected proposal. Jake Anderson stood at the viewport of the International Space Station, gazing down at the blue marble of Earth. At 32, he was the youngest diplomat ever assigned to the station, tasked with greeting any potential alien visitors. It was a job most considered a joke, until today. The alert klaxon blared through the station. Jake's heart raced as he sprinted to the command module. Captain Yuki Tanaka was already there, her usually calm demeanor shaken. "Anderson, we've got a situation," she said, gesturing to the main screen. "An alien ship just appeared out of nowhere. They're hailing us." Jake swallowed hard. This was it, the moment humanity had been waiting for, the moment he'd been training for. "Put them through," he said, straightening his uniform. The screen flickered to life, revealing a being that defied description. It had iridescent purple skin, 4 arms, and a head that tapered to a point. 6 eyes blinked at them in unison. Jake cleared his throat. "Greetings. I am Jake Anderson, Earth's diplomatic representative. Welcome to our solar system." The alien's mouth, a vertical slit lined with small, sharp teeth, curved into what Jake hoped was a smile. "Greetings, Jake Anderson of Earth. I am High Chancellor Zix of the Cylonian Empire. We have traveled far to make your acquaintance." Over the next hour, Jake and Captain Tanaka learned that the Cylonians were an advanced spacefaring civilization. They had been observing Earth for decades, waiting for humanity to reach a certain level of technological development before making contact. "We believe your species has great potential," Zix explained. "We wish to propose an alliance, a sharing of knowledge and resources that could propel humanity to the stars." Jake could hardly contain his excitement. This was beyond his wildest dreams. "High Chancellor, we would be honored to discuss such an alliance. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting with Earth's leaders." Zix's expression shifted, his eyes blinking in an odd pattern. "There is one condition to this alliance, Jake Anderson of Earth, one that requires an immediate answer." Jake and Captain Tanaka exchanged glances. "What kind of condition?" Jake asked cautiously. "To seal our alliance, we propose a union between our peoples. A marriage, as you call it on Earth, between a human and a Cylonian of royal blood." Jake's jaw dropped. "Marriage? But we've only just met. Surely there are other ways to formalize an alliance." Zix shook his head, an oddly human gesture. "This is our way, Jake Anderson. It ensures true commitment between our species, and we have chosen you as the human candidate." "Me?" Jake sputtered. "But I'm just a diplomat. Surely one of our world leaders would be more appropriate." "We have observed your species for long, Jake Anderson. You possess qualities we value: intelligence, adaptability, and a strong moral compass. You are the ideal candidate to join our royal family." Jake's mind reeled. This was insane. How could he agree to marry an alien he'd never met? But then he thought about what this alliance could mean for humanity: advanced technology, interstellar travel, protection from potential cosmic threats. Could he refuse such an opportunity? Who would I be marrying?" he asked hesitantly. "Princess Sora, my daughter and heir to the Cylonian throne," Zix replied. "She is brilliant, kind, and eager to learn about other cultures. I believe you would be well matched." Jake took a deep breath. "May I see a picture of her?" Zix's eyes blinked rapidly. "I'm afraid that's not possible. In our culture, it is considered bad luck for a potential mate to see their partner before the union is agreed upon. You must decide based on the potential benefits for your people, not on physical appearance." Jake turned to Captain Tanaka, who looked as shocked as he felt. "Captain, what do you think?" Tanaka shook her head. "This is beyond my pay grade, Anderson, but the potential benefits for humanity are enormous. If you're willing to make this sacrifice, it could change the course of human history." Jake closed his eyes, his mind racing. This was crazy, absolutely insane. But isn't this why he became a diplomat? To serve humanity's best interests, to boldly go where no one had gone before. He opened his eyes and faced the screen. High Chancellor Zix, on behalf of humanity, I accept your proposal. Zix's mouth curved into that strange smile again. Excellent, Jake Anderson of Earth. We will make preparations for your arrival on Cylon immediately. The union ceremony will take place in 1 Earth month. As the transmission ended, Jake felt a mix of excitement and terror. What had he just agreed to? The next month was a whirlwind of activity. News of the alien contact and the proposed alliance spread across the globe like wildfire. Jake found himself thrust into the spotlight, hailed as a hero by some and criticized as a fool by others. World leaders debated the decision. Scientists salivated over the potential knowledge to be gained, and religious figures argued over the theological implications of alien life. Through it all, Jake tried to prepare himself for his new life. He studied everything he could about Cylonian culture from the limited information provided. He underwent rigorous physical examinations and psychological evaluations. He said goodbye to his friends and family, not knowing when or if he'd see them again. The night before his departure, Jake stood once again at the viewport of the space station, looking down at Earth. Tomorrow, he would board the Cylonian ship and leave behind everything he'd ever known. Having second thoughts, Captain Tanaka's voice came from behind him. Jake turned to face her. Wouldn't you? I'm about to marry an alien princess I've never seen, live on a planet I know almost nothing about, and act as humanity's ambassador to an advanced civilization. It's overwhelming. Tanaka nodded, her expression softening. It is. But Jake, what you're doing, it's incredible. You're opening doors for humanity that we never dreamed possible. Whatever happens, you should be proud. Jake managed a small smile. Thanks, Captain. I just hope I'm up to the task. You are, she said confidently. You're smart, adaptable, and you've got a good heart. Those qualities translate across any species. Trust yourself, Jake. And remember, you're not just representing yourself out there. You're representing all of us. Show them what humanity is capable of. Jake nodded, squaring his shoulders. Tanaka was right. This was bigger than him, bigger than his fears or doubts. This was for humanity's future. As the Cylonian ship arrived the next day, Jake took one last look at the blue marble of Earth. He took a deep breath, picked up his small bag of belongings, and stepped forward to meet his destiny. The journey to Cylon took 2 weeks, though Jake was told it would have been much longer without the Cylonians' advanced faster-than-light technology. During the trip, he was given a crash course in Cylonian language, customs, and etiquette. He learned that the Cylonians valued intelligence and adaptability above all else. Physical appearance, while not unimportant, was secondary to mental acuity and emotional intelligence. This gave Jake hope. Perhaps his alien bride wouldn't find him as strange as he feared he might find her. As they approached Cylon, Jake got his first glimpse of his new home. The planet was a swirling mass of purples and greens, with ring-like structures surrounding it that he was told were space stations and defensive platforms. Jake's escort, a Cylonian named Vex, turned to him as they prepared to land. Remember, Jake Anderson of Earth, when you meet the princess, focus on her words and actions, not her appearance. Our forms may seem strange to you at first, but in time, you will see the beauty in our differences. Jake nodded, his stomach churning with a mix of excitement and apprehension. This was it, the moment of truth. As he stepped off the ship onto Cylonian soil, Jake took a deep breath of the alien air. It was slightly sweeter than Earth's, with a hint of something he couldn't quite identify. A group of Cylonians waited to greet him, their iridescent skin shimmering in the light of Xylon's twin suns. And there, in the center of the group, stood a figure that could only be Princess Zora. Jake's breath caught in his throat. She was not what he expected. Her skin was a deep, shimmering blue, her 4 arms ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. Her head was larger than a human's, with no visible hair, but a series of intricate, swirling patterns etched into the skin. And her eyes, all 6 of them, were a brilliant gold that seemed to look right through him. For a moment, Jake froze, his human instincts recoiling at her alien appearance. But then he remembered Captain Tanaka's words. He was representing humanity. He had to show them what humans were capable of, including overcoming their own prejudices. Jake stepped forward, bowing deeply as he'd been taught. "Princess Zora, I am honored to meet you. I am Jake Anderson of Earth." Zora inclined her head, her gold eyes blinking in sequence. When she spoke, her voice was melodious, with an almost musical quality. "Welcome to Xylon, Jake Anderson of Earth. I look forward to our union and the bright future it represents for both our peoples." As Jake straightened, his eyes met Zora's. In that moment, despite the alienness of her features, he saw something familiar: curiosity, intelligence, and perhaps a hint of the same nervousness he felt. Jake smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this crazy adventure might work out after all. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was determined to face them with all the courage, adaptability, and ingenuity that humanity had to offer. The future of 2 worlds depended on it. First impressions and cultural clashes. The first few days on Cylon were a whirlwind of new experiences for Jake. Every sight, sound, and smell was alien, challenging his human senses and perceptions. The architecture of the royal palace, where he now resided, was a marvel of organic curves and crystalline structures that seemed to defy gravity. The food, while nutritious, came in colors and textures he had never imagined. Even gravity felt slightly off, making him feel lighter on his feet. But the biggest challenge was undoubtedly his interactions with Princess Zora. Their first private meeting took place in a garden filled with bioluminescent plants that pulsed with soft light. Jake tried not to stare as Zora gracefully seated herself on a living chair that seemed to grow from the ground. "I hope you're finding your accommodations satisfactory, Jake Anderson of Earth," Zora said, her musical voice tinged with what Jake thought might be nervousness. Jake nodded, trying to focus on her words rather than the way her skin shimmered in the garden's ethereal light. "Yes, thank you. Everything has been incredible. And please, just Jake is fine." Zora's mouth curved into what Jake was learning to recognize as a smile. "Very well, just Jake. Then you must call me simply Zora." Jake couldn't help but chuckle at the misunderstanding. "Actually, I meant, never mind. Zara it is." As they talked, Jake found himself relaxing. Despite her alien appearance, Zora's curiosity about Earth and genuine interest in his thoughts made the conversation flow easily. They discussed the differences between their worlds, from technology to culture to biology. "I must admit," Zora said, her golden eyes blinking in sequence, "I find the concept of human hair fascinating. Does it not get in the way?" Jake ran a hand through his brown hair, smiling. "Sometimes, I suppose, but it can also be quite useful for expression, and it helps keep our heads warm." Zora tilted her head, a gesture Jake was coming to associate with curiosity. "Intriguing. Perhaps you could show me more about human grooming rituals sometime." "I'd be happy to," Jake replied, feeling the warmth in his chest at her genuine interest. As the days passed, Jake and Zora spent more time together, learning about each other's worlds. Jake found himself constantly amazed by Zora's brilliant mind. She grasped complex concepts quickly and had a particular interest in human history and culture. However, cultural clashes were inevitable. One morning, Jake woke to find a gelatinous cube pulsing gently next to his bed. "Gah!" he yelped, jumping back. A Xylonian servant rushed in. "Is everything all right? Jake Anderson of Earth." Jake pointed at the cube. "What is that thing?" The servant looked confused. "It is a Groxlar, a pet gifted to you by Princess Zora. It is a great honor. Groxlars are known for their empathic abilities and soothing presence." Jake stared at the pulsing cube. It didn't look very soothing to him. But he remembered his diplomatic training. "Oh, of course. Please convey my thanks to the princess." Later, when he met Zara for their daily walk in the garden, he broached the subject. "Thank you for the, Groxler. It was very thoughtful." Zara's eyes lit up. "Oh, you're welcome. I hoped it would help you feel more at home. Groxlers are excellent companions, especially in times of stress or uncertainty." Jake nodded, not wanting to offend her. "It's certainly unique. On Earth, our pets are usually, well, a bit different." This launched them into a discussion about Earth animals. Zara was fascinated by the diversity of Earth's fauna, particularly cats and dogs. "These dogs sound wonderful," she said. "Loyal, affectionate, and capable of assisting humans in various tasks. Perhaps we could consider introducing some to Xylon." Jake grinned. "That's not a bad idea. It could be a great cultural exchange." As they continued to learn about each other, Jake found himself facing numerous challenges. The Xylonian language, with its complex tonal system and reliance on subtle bioluminescent cues, proved difficult for his human vocal cords and non-glowing skin to replicate. One day, during a formal dinner with the Xylonian court, Jake attempted to compliment the chef on the meal. Instead, due to a slight tonal error, he accidentally declared his intention to overthrow the government. The room fell silent, all 12 of the High Chancellor's eyes fixed on Jake. For a moment, tension crackled in the air like electricity. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zara burst out laughing. Her laughter, a series of melodic trills, broke the tension. Soon, the entire court was joining in, their combined laughter sounding like an alien symphony to Jake's ears. "Oh, just Jake," Zara said, wiping a bioluminescent tear from one of her eyes. "Your attempts at our language are endearing, but perhaps we should stick to English for now." Jake felt his cheeks burning with embarrassment, but he couldn't help laughing along. "Probably for the best. I'd hate to accidentally start an interstellar incident." This incident, while embarrassing, actually helped Jake's standing in the Xylonian court. His willingness to laugh at himself and his determination to keep trying despite the difficulties impressed the Xylonians, who valued adaptability and perseverance. As the weeks passed, Jake found himself growing more comfortable in his new world. The food became less strange, the gravity more natural, and even the Groxler, which he had named Blob, became a comforting presence. But more than that, he found himself growing closer to Zara. Her intelligence, kindness, and genuine desire to understand him and his world were breaking down the barriers of their physical differences. One evening, as they watched Xylon's twin moons rise from the palace observatory, Zara turned to Jake, her golden eyes serious. "Jake, may I ask you something personal?" Jake nodded, curious. "Of course. When you first saw me, were you repulsed? I know that by human standards, I must seem quite alien." Jake was taken aback by her directness, but he appreciated her honesty. He thought carefully before answering. "I won't lie to you, Zara. When I first saw you, I was shocked. You're so different from anything I've known. But repulsed? No. Surprised? Yes. Overwhelmed? Definitely. But the more I've gotten to know you, the more I've come to see your beauty." Zara's skin flushed a deeper blue, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing softly. "Truly." Jake smiled, reaching out to gently take one of her hands in his. Her skin was cool and smooth, the 6 fingers curling naturally around his 5. "Truly. Your eyes, the way they shine when you're excited about a new idea, the graceful way you move, the patterns on your skin that change with your moods, but more than that, the beauty of your mind, your kindness, your curiosity. Zara, you're beautiful in ways I never imagined before coming here." Zara's other 3 hands came up to clasp his, her eyes blinking rapidly in what Jake now recognized as emotion. "Oh, Jake, I feared. I know that in the past, some humans have found our appearance disturbing. I worried that you might never see past it." Jake squeezed her hands gently. Never underestimate humanity's capacity for adaptation, Zora. We may stumble at first, but give us time, and we can learn to see beauty in the most unexpected places. As they stood there, hand in hand, watching the alien moons rise over an alien world, Jake felt a sense of peace settle over him. He still missed Earth, still felt out of place sometimes in this strange new world. But he was adapting, learning, growing, and he was doing it alongside someone truly remarkable. The next day, Jake faced perhaps his biggest challenge yet. He was to be presented to the Zylonian public in a grand ceremony, officially announcing his engagement to Zora and the alliance between Earth and Zylon. As he donned the formal Zylonian robes, a complex arrangement of iridescent fabrics that seemed to change color with his movements, Jake felt a flutter of nervousness in his stomach. This was it, his first real test as humanity's ambassador to this alien world. Zara met him outside the ceremonial hall, her own robes a dazzling display of shifting blues and purples. "Are you ready, Jake?" Jake took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. "As I'll ever be. Let's do this." As they stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the capital city, Jake's breath caught in his throat. Thousands of Zylonians filled the square below, their collective bioluminescence creating a sea of pulsing light. The sight was both beautiful and overwhelming. High Chancellor Zix stepped forward, his voice booming out over the crowd. "People of Zylon, I present to you Jake Anderson of Earth, soon to be united with our beloved Princess Zora, sealing the alliance between our great civilizations." The crowd's reaction was immediate and intense. A wave of bioluminescence swept through the assembly, accompanied by a harmonic hum that Jake felt in his bones. It was alien, overwhelming, and absolutely magnificent. Zix turned to Jake. "Jake Anderson of Earth, do you have words for our people?" Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. This was his moment to represent humanity, to show that Zylonians what humans were capable of. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "People of Zylon, I stand before you today not just as Jake Anderson, but as a representative of all humanity. Our worlds may seem vastly different, but I believe we share the same fundamental desires. For knowledge, for progress, for peace." He paused, looking out over the sea of alien faces. "I won't pretend that this alliance will be easy. There will be misunderstandings, cultural clashes, moments of frustration on both sides. But I promise you this, humanity will face these challenges with determination, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to mutual understanding and respect." Jake reached out, taking Zora's hand in his. "Princess Zora has shown me the beauty and wonder of your world. Together, we hope to bridge the gap between our civilizations, to learn from each other and grow together. The road ahead may be long and sometimes difficult, but I believe that together, there's nothing our peoples cannot achieve." As he finished speaking, there was a moment of silence. Jake held his breath, wondering if his words had resonated at all with the alien crowd. Then, slowly at first, but quickly building, a wave of bioluminescence swept through the crowd. The harmonic hum returned, louder this time, filled with what Jake could only interpret as approval and excitement. Zara squeezed his hand, her golden eyes shining. "You did wonderfully, Jake. I think they're starting to see what I see in you." As the ceremony continued, Jake felt a swell of pride and determination. He had taken the first step in his role as humanity's ambassador. There would be many more challenges ahead, but in that moment, looking out over the alien crowd with Zora by his side, Jake knew that he was ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The future of two worlds was in his hands, and he was determined not to let either of them down. The Royal Challenge. As the days turned into weeks, Jake found himself settling into a routine on Zylon. His mornings were spent in intensive language and cultural lessons. Afternoons were dedicated to meetings with various Zylonian officials to discuss the details of the Earth-Zylon alliance, and evenings were often spent with Zora, learning more about each other and their respective worlds. However, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone in the Cylonian court was as enthusiastic about the alliance as Zara and her father. He often caught whispers and saw subtle bioluminescent signals passing between courtiers when they thought he wasn't looking. One evening, as Jake and Zara were walking through the palace's crystal gardens, he decided to voice his concerns. "Zara," he began hesitantly, "I can't help but notice that some of the court members seem less than thrilled about our engagement and the alliance." Zara's bioluminescent patterns flickered in what Jake had come to recognize as a sign of concern. "You're very perceptive, Jake. You're right, there are some who question the wisdom of aligning ourselves with a species as young as humanity." Jake nodded, having expected as much. "I understand their concerns. We must seem pretty primitive compared to your civilization." "Not primitive," Zara corrected gently, "but young, yes. Some fear that humanity isn't ready for the knowledge and power that comes with joining the galactic community." Jake felt a flare of defensiveness on behalf of his species, but he pushed it down. Getting angry wouldn't help. Instead, he asked, "Is there anything I can do to prove humanity's worth? To show that we're ready for this alliance?" Zara was quiet for a moment, her golden eyes thoughtful. "There might be," she said slowly. "There's an ancient Cylonian tradition, rarely invoked these days, called the Royal Challenge. It's a series of tests designed to prove a potential royal consort's worth." Jake's eyebrows rose. "A series of tests? Like what?" "They vary, but typically include trials of physical prowess, mental acuity, and moral character," Zara explained. "If you were to undertake the Royal Challenge and succeed, it would go a long way towards silencing the doubters." Jake considered this. The idea of facing unknown alien trials was daunting, but he knew he had to do something to secure humanity's place in this new galactic order. "All right," he said, squaring his shoulders. "I'll do it. I'll take on the Royal Challenge." Zara's skin flushed a deeper blue, her patterns pulsing with what Jake now recognized as a mix of excitement and concern. "Are you sure, Jake? The challenges can be dangerous, and no off-worlder has ever attempted them before." Jake gave her a determined smile. "All the more reason to try. Humanity didn't get where it is by backing down from challenges, Zara. We're explorers, innovators, problem solvers. If this is what it takes to prove our worth, then bring it on." The next day, Jake's decision was announced to the Cylonian court. The reaction was mixed. Some seemed excited by the prospect, others skeptical, and a few downright hostile. But the High Chancellor gave his approval, and preparations for the Royal Challenge began immediately. The challenge would consist of 3 trials, to be completed over the course of 3 days. Jake spent every spare moment preparing, studying Cylonian history and customs, working on his physical conditioning, and trying to anticipate what kinds of tests he might face. On the morning of the first trial, Jake stood in the center of a vast arena, surrounded by thousands of watching Cylonians. Their combined bioluminescence created a dazzling light show that was both beautiful and intimidating. High Chancellor Zix's voice boomed out over the crowd. "Jake Anderson of Earth, are you ready to face the first trial of the Royal Challenge?" Jake took a deep breath, centering himself. "I am ready," he called out, his voice steady despite his nerves. A shimmering force field sprang up around the arena, and suddenly the ground began to shift beneath Jake's feet. The smooth floor transformed into a complex, 3-dimensional maze that sprawled out in all directions, defying gravity as pathways twisted up walls and across ceilings. "Your first trial is the Maze of Perception," Zix announced. "You must reach the center within the time limit. But be warned, this maze will challenge not just your sense of direction, but your very perception of reality." As Jake set off into the maze, he quickly realized what Zix meant. The pathways seemed to shift and change as he moved, and gravity reoriented itself with each turn. What looked like a straight path forward might suddenly become a vertical climb, or even leave him walking upside down. Jake's head spun as he tried to navigate the constantly changing landscape. More than once, he found himself at a dead end, forced to backtrack and try a different route. The watching Xylonians murmured and flashed, their bioluminescence creating distracting patterns in Jake's peripheral vision. As the time limit drew near, Jake found himself no closer to the center than when he'd started. Frustration welled up inside him, but he forced it down. This was a test of perception, he reminded himself. Maybe he needed to look at things differently. Taking a deep breath, Jake closed his eyes, shutting out the dazzling light show around him. He thought back to his training on Earth, to the meditation techniques he'd learned to center himself in stressful situations. Slowly, he opened his mind, trying to sense the flow of energy around him, rather than relying on his unreliable vision. To his amazement, he began to feel subtle shifts in the air, tiny vibrations that seemed to pulse in certain directions. Trusting his instincts, Jake began to move, his eyes still closed. He navigated turns and climbs, barely aware of the gasps and flashes from the watching crowd. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself standing in the center of the maze, seconds before the time limit expired. The crowd erupted in a cacophony of harmonic humming and flashing lights. As the maze dissolved around him, Jake caught sight of Zara in the royal box. Her golden eyes were shining with pride. Her skin flushed a deep, excited blue. Jake couldn't help but grin. One trial down, 2 to go. The second trial, which took place the following day, proved to be a test of mental acuity. Jake found himself facing a Cylonian supercomputer in a complex game of strategy and resource management. The game simulated the development of a civilization from its primitive beginnings to a spacefaring society, with countless variables to manage. At first, Jake struggled to keep up with the computer's lightning-fast calculations and predictions, but as the game progressed, he began to see patterns emerging. He realized that while the computer was excellent at optimizing for efficiency, it lacked the human traits of creativity and intuition. Jake began to make moves that seemed illogical at first, but paid off in the long run. He took risks, made alliances, and occasionally sacrificed short-term gains for long-term benefits. His unconventional strategy threw the computer off balance, and by the end of the allotted time, Jake's simulated civilization had not only survived but thrived, outpacing the computers in several key areas. The Tylonian crowd buzzed with excitement. Jake had proven that human ingenuity could compete with their most advanced AI, a feat many had thought impossible. As Jake prepared for the third and final trial, he felt a mix of exhaustion and determination. He had come this far. He couldn't falter now. The last trial turned out to be the most challenging yet. Jake found himself in a holographic simulation of a space station in crisis. Alarms blared as systems failed, and holographic crew members panicked around him. "This is the trial of leadership," High Chancellor Zix's voice echoed through the simulation. "You must save the station and its crew. How you do so will reveal your true character." Jake took a deep breath and got to work. He quickly assessed the situation, delegating tasks to the holographic crew and working to solve the most critical problems first. As he worked, he faced a series of increasingly difficult moral dilemmas. Should he divert power from life support to save a critical research project? Should he jettison damaged segments of the station, sacrificing a few to save the many? Each decision weighed heavily on Jake, but he forced himself to keep moving, to keep leading. He drew on everything he had learned about Cylonian culture and values, trying to make choices that would resonate with their society, while staying true to his own moral compass. As the simulation reached its climax, Jake faced his biggest challenge yet. The station's reactor was going critical, and the only way to stop it was for someone to enter the highly radioactive chamber and manually shut it down. It was a suicide mission. The holographic crew looked to Jake for direction. In that moment, he knew what he had to do. Without hesitation, Jake stepped forward. "I'll go," he said firmly. "Get everyone to the escape pods." As he made his way to the reactor, alarms blaring around him. Jake felt an odd sense of peace. He had come to Xylon to represent the best of humanity, and if this was how he did it, then so be it. Just as he reached the reactor controls, the simulation froze. High Chancellor Zix's voice filled the room once more. The trial is complete. As the holographic station faded away, Jake found himself back in the arena, surrounded by a sea of silent Xylonians. For a long moment, no one moved or spoke. Then, slowly at first, but quickly building, a wave of bioluminescence swept through the crowd. The harmonic hum that Jake had come to associate with Xylonian applause filled the air, louder than he had ever heard it before. High Chancellor Zix stepped forward, all 12 of his eyes focused intently on Jake. "Jake Anderson of Earth," he said, his voice carrying clearly over the crowd's hum. "You have faced our trials with courage, intelligence, and compassion. You have proven yourself worthy not just as a royal consort, but as a representative of humanity." Jake felt a wave of relief and pride wash over him. He had done it. He had proven humanity's worth. As the crowd continued to cheer, Zara rushed forward, her golden eyes shining with unshed tears. Without hesitation, she wrapped all 4 of her arms around Jake in a tight embrace. "You did it, Jake," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You showed them all what humanity is capable of." Jake hugged her back, feeling the cool, smooth texture of her skin against his. In that moment, their physical differences seemed to melt away. They were just 2 beings from different worlds, united in their hope for a better future. As they pulled apart, Jake saw a new respect in the eyes of the watching Xylonians. He had faced their challenges and emerged victorious. He had proven that humanity, despite its youth, had earned its place among the stars. But more than that, Jake realized that he had proven something to himself. He had faced the unknown, adapted to an alien world, and come out stronger for it. Whatever challenges lay ahead in bridging the gap between Earth and Xylon, Jake knew he was ready to face them. The future was bright, filled with possibilities, and Jake Anderson, bartender turned intergalactic diplomat, was ready to help shape it. Threats from within and without. In the weeks following the royal challenge, Jake found his position in the Xylonian court dramatically improved. The skeptics who had doubted humanity's readiness for an interstellar alliance were now more open to his ideas, and even some of the most conservative court members begrudgingly offered their respect. Jake threw himself into his role as Earth's ambassador with renewed vigor. He spent long hours in meetings, negotiating the finer points of technology exchanges, cultural programs, and defensive agreements. It was exhausting work, but Jake found it deeply fulfilling. His relationship with Zara deepened as well. They worked closely together, with Zara acting as a bridge between Jake and the more traditional elements of Xylonian society. Jake was constantly amazed by her diplomatic skills and her ability to explain complex Xylonian concepts in ways he could understand. One evening, as they walked through the bioluminescent gardens that had become their favorite retreat, Zara turned to Jake with a serious expression. "Jake, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her golden eyes blinking in a pattern Jake now recognized as nervousness. "What is it?" Jake asked, concern creeping into his voice. Zara's skin flushed a deeper blue. I think I'm falling in love with you," she said softly. "I know it's not what either of us expected when this arrangement was made, but I can't deny my feelings any longer." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. He had been grappling with his own growing feelings for Zara, unsure if they were reciprocated or even possible given their biological differences. "Zara," he said, taking her hands in his, "I feel the same way. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. You're brilliant, kind, and yes, beautiful to me. I love you too." Their first kiss was awkward, given their different physiologies, but to Jake it was perfect. As they embraced, the bioluminescent plants around them pulsed with light, as if celebrating their union. However, their moment of happiness was short-lived. The next day, as Jake was reviewing trade agreements in his office, an urgent message came through from Earth. Ambassador Anderson, the holographic image of the UN Secretary-General flickered to life, her face grave. We've received disturbing intelligence. There's a faction on Earth that's strongly opposed to the alliance with Xylon. They believe we're moving too fast, that we're risking Earth's autonomy. There have been protests, and we've uncovered plans for more serious actions against Cylonian interests on Earth. Jake felt his stomach drop. How serious are we talking? The Secretary-General's expression darkened further. Terrorist-level serious, Ambassador. We're doing everything we can to track down the ringleaders, but I wanted to warn you. Be on your guard. If they can't stop the alliance on Earth, they might try to target you on Cylon. After the transmission ended, Jake sat back in his chair, his mind racing. He had to tell Zara and the High Chancellor about this threat. But as he stood to leave his office, he noticed something strange. The Groxlor, the gelatinous pet Zara had given him months ago, was pulsing with an unusual pattern of colors. Remembering what he'd been told about the Groxlor's empathic abilities, Jake approached it cautiously. As he got closer, he felt a wave of anxiety and fear that didn't seem to be his own. The Groxlor was trying to warn him about something. Just then, Jake heard a faint hissing sound. His eyes widened as he saw a thin mist starting to seep in under his office door. Acting on instinct, he held his breath and rushed to the window, smashing it open with a heavy paperweight. As fresh air rushed in, Jake gasped, his head spinning. Alarms began to blare throughout the palace. Jake stumbled out of his office, still dizzy from whatever gas had been pumped in. He had to find Zara, had to warn her. As he rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a group of Xylonian guards. Their skin was flashing with patterns Jake recognized as alarm and aggression. "Halt, human," one of them shouted. "You're under arrest for attempted assassination of Princess Zara." Jake's mind reeled. "What? No, you don't understand. Someone just tried to kill me. We need to find Zara. She might be in danger." But the guards weren't listening. They moved to surround Jake, their weapons raised. Jake knew he was no match for them physically. He had to think fast. Remembering his training and the lessons he'd learned during the Royal Challenge, Jake took a deep breath and forced himself to project calm. He raised his hands slowly, then began to speak in careful Cylonian. "I invoke the right of truth speech," he said, using a rarely used but deeply respected Cylonian custom. "I swear by the twin moons that I have not and would never harm Princess Zora. Please, we must find her. She's in danger." The guards hesitated, their bioluminescent patterns shifting with uncertainty. Invoking truth speech was a serious matter in Cylonian culture. To lie after invoking it was considered one of the gravest crimes possible. After a tense moment, the lead guard lowered his weapon. "We will take you to the High Chancellor," he said. "He will decide your fate." As they escorted Jake through the palace, he saw signs of chaos everywhere. Cylonian courtiers rushed about, their skin flashing with patterns of fear and confusion. Jake's worry for Zara grew with every step. They found High Chancellor Zix in the palace's central command center, surrounded by advisors and security personnel. His many eyes focused on Jake as he was brought in, narrowing with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "Jake Anderson of Earth," Zix's voice boomed, "you have betrayed our trust. Poison was found in Princess Zora's chambers, poison of Earth origin. How do you explain this?" Jake's heart raced. "High Chancellor, I swear to you, I had nothing to do with this. I've just learned of a threat against the Alliance from Earth. Someone tried to poison me in my office as well. Please, where is Zora? Is she safe?" Zix's expression remained stern, but Jake saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Princess Zora is secure. She was removed to a safe location as soon as the poison was discovered." "Father," a familiar voice called out. Jake turned to see Zora pushing her way into the room, flanked by guards. "Father, you must listen to Jake. He's telling the truth." Zara rushed to Jake's side, taking his hand in hers. The poison in my chambers was meant for Jake, not me. I had invited him to dine with me this evening. Someone must have found out and tried to take advantage of the situation. Jake squeezed Zora's hand, relief flooding through him at seeing her safe. But they weren't out of danger yet. "High Chancellor," Jake said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I believe we're facing a coordinated attack on the Alliance, from both Earth and Xylon. The poison, the gas in my office, these are attempts to drive a wedge between our peoples. We need to work together to uncover the truth before it's too late." Zix was silent for a long moment, his many eyes shifting between Jake and Zora. Finally, he spoke. "Very well. Jake Anderson of Earth, you have invoked truth speech, and my daughter vouches for you. We will investigate these claims. But know this, if we find any evidence of your involvement, the consequences will be severe." Over the next few days, Jake, Zora, and a team of Xylonian investigators worked tirelessly to unravel the conspiracy. They uncovered a network of anti-Alliance activists that spanned both Earth and Xylon, coordinating their efforts to sabotage the fragile peace between the two worlds. The breakthrough came when they managed to decrypt communications between the Earth-based terrorists and their Xylonian collaborators. Jake's experience with Earth technology combined with Zora's deep understanding of Xylonian systems allowed them to crack the complex encryption. As they pored over the decrypted messages, a chill ran down Jake's spine. "Zora, look at this," he said, pointing to a particular transmission. "They're planning a major attack, something big enough to destroy any chance of an alliance." Zora's skin paled to a light blue as she read the message. "They're going to try to sabotage the main power core of the capital city," she said, her voice shaking. "If they succeed, it would cause an explosion visible from orbit. Millions would die, and Earth would undoubtedly be blamed." Jake's mind raced. "We have to stop them. When is this supposed to happen?" Zora's eyes widened as she checked the timestamp on the message. "It's scheduled for tonight, during the peace celebration." They rushed to alert High Chancellor Zix and the security forces. As plans were quickly made to evacuate the city and secure the power core, Jake had an idea. "Wait," he said, turning to Zora and Zix. "If we evacuate, they'll know we're onto them. They might accelerate their plans or go into hiding. We need to catch them in the act." "What do you suggest?" Zix asked, his tone cautious but interested. Jake outlined his plan. It was risky, but if it worked, they could catch the conspirators red-handed and prove beyond doubt that the alliance was worth fighting for. As night fell and the peace celebration began, Jake and Zora made their way to the power core, disguised as maintenance workers. They had a small team of trusted guards with them, also in disguise. "Remember," Jake whispered to Zora as they approached the core, "we need to let them start the sabotage before we move in. We need irrefutable proof." Zora nodded, her skin rippling with a pattern that Jake now recognized as a mix of nervousness and determination. They didn't have to wait long. As the sounds of celebration echoed from the city above, a group of figures slipped into the power core chamber. Jake's heart pounded as he recognized one of them, a junior diplomat from the Earth delegation. The conspirators moved quickly, attaching devices to the power core that Jake recognized as makeshift bombs. He waited, every muscle tense, until they had armed the devices. "Now," he shouted, and chaos erupted. The next few minutes were a blur of action. Jake and Zora worked in perfect sync, Jake using his human agility to outmaneuver the surprised conspirators, while Zora used her Xylonian strength to subdue them. Their guards moved in, quickly overwhelming the saboteurs. As the dust settled, Jake found himself face to face with the Earth diplomat, who spat at his feet. "Traitor," the man hissed. "You're selling out humanity to these aliens." Jake shook his head, feeling a mix of pity and disgust. "No," he said firmly. "I'm securing humanity's future. We're not alone in the universe, and it's time we learn to coexist." As the conspirators were led away, Jake turned to Zora. Her skin was flushed with the Tylonian equivalent of an adrenaline rush, her golden eyes shining with relief and something else. Pride. "We did it," she said, taking his hand in hers. "We saved both our worlds." Jake smiled, feeling the weight of the past few days lifting from his shoulders. "We did," he agreed. "Together." As they made their way back to the palace to report their success, Jake realized something. In working to save the Alliance, he and Zora had proven its worth. They had shown that humans and Tylonians could not only coexist but thrive together, their differences becoming strengths when united towards a common goal. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more misunderstandings to overcome. But as Jake looked at Zora, he felt a surge of hope. Together, they could face anything the universe threw at them. The future of two worlds was secure, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. A new future. The weeks following the thwarted attack were a whirlwind of activity. News of the foiled plot spread quickly through both Cylonian and Earth media, sparking intense debates and discussions on both worlds. Jake found himself at the center of it all, working tirelessly to smooth ruffled feathers and reassure both humans and Tylonians of the Alliance's importance. On Earth, opinion was divided. Many hailed Jake as a hero, a shining example of humanity's potential on the galactic stage. Others viewed him with suspicion, worried that he had gone native and no longer truly represented Earth's interests. Jake did his best to address these concerns, participating in numerous video interviews and virtual town halls to explain the benefits of the Alliance and his vision for humanity's future among the stars. On Cylon, Jake's actions had cemented his status as a trusted friend of the Empire. The sight of a human working in perfect harmony with the Cylonian princess to save millions of lives had done more to sway public opinion than any official declaration ever could. Through it all, Zora remained by Jake's side, offering support, insight, and the occasional moment of levity when the pressure became too much. Their relationship, once a political arrangement, had blossomed into a partnership built on mutual respect, shared goals, and genuine love. 6 months after the failed attack, Jake stood before a mirror in his chambers, adjusting the ceremonial Earth-Cylonian hybrid robes he wore. Today was the day of his official wedding to Zora, a union that would symbolize the joining of their two worlds. As he fussed with the unfamiliar garment, a familiar gelatinous cube pulsed gently nearby. Jake smiled at his pet Groxlar, now affectionately named Blob. "Well, Blob," he said, "what do you think? Do I look ready to make history?" The Groxlar pulsed with warm, comforting colors, sending waves of calm and reassurance to Jake. He chuckled, reaching out to pat the gelatinous surface. "Thanks, buddy. I needed that." A knock at the door interrupted his musings. "Come in," Jake called out. To his surprise, it was High Chancellor Zix who entered, his iridescent robes shimmering in the light. "Jake Anderson of Earth," he said, his voice solemn but tinged with warmth. "Are you prepared for the ceremony?" Jake nodded, straightening his posture. "I am, High Chancellor. And may I say, it's an honor to have you here." Zix's mouth curved into what Jake now recognized as a smile. "The honor is mine. Jake, you have proven yourself a true friend to Xylon, and a worthy partner for my daughter." He paused, his many eyes blinking in sequence. "But I did not come here merely to exchange pleasantries. I have something for you." From within his robes, Zix produced a small, intricately designed box. He held it out to Jake, who took it carefully. "This," Zix explained, "is a gift that has been in our royal family for generations. It is traditionally given to the heir's consort on their wedding day." Jake opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a small, crystalline device, unlike anything he had ever seen. It pulsed with a soft, multicolored light that seemed to respond to his touch. "It's beautiful," Jake breathed. "But what is it?" "It is called the Nexus of Understanding," Zix said. "It is a powerful artifact, attuned to the wearer's mind. It allows the user to understand and be understood by any sentient being, regardless of language or mode of communication. Jake's eyes widened as he realized the implications. You mean? Zix nodded. With this, you will be able to communicate perfectly with any Xylonian, understanding not just their words, but the subtle nuances of their bioluminescent signals. And more than that, it will help you navigate the complexities of interspecies diplomacy as you help guide our peoples into a shared future. Overwhelmed, Jake looked up at Zix. Thank you, he said softly. I don't know what to say. Say nothing, Zix replied. Simply use it wisely, for the benefit of both our worlds. With that, he turned and left, leaving Jake to contemplate the enormous responsibility he had been given. The wedding ceremony was a spectacular event, broadcast live to both Earth and Xylon. Jake and Zara stood before a vast crowd, their hands joined as they recited vows in both English and Xylonian. As they sealed their union with a kiss, which they had practiced to make it work with their different physiologies, the crowd erupted in a cacophony of cheers and harmonic hums. As Jake looked out over the sea of faces, both human and Xylonian, he felt a profound sense of hope. This was more than just a wedding. It was the dawn of a new era for both their species. In the years that followed, Jake and Zara worked tirelessly to strengthen the bonds between Earth and Xylon. The nexus of understanding proved invaluable, allowing Jake to navigate complex diplomatic situations with ease and foster deeper connections between humans and Xylonians. One of their first major projects was the establishment of cultural exchange programs. Humans were invited to study on Cylon, learning about advanced technologies and alien cultures firsthand. In return, Xylonians came to Earth, marveling at the diversity of its ecosystems and the tenacity of its inhabitants. Jake never forgot his humble beginnings, and he made sure that these opportunities were available not just to the elite, but to people from all walks of life. He took particular pride in a program that brought working-class humans, bartenders, mechanics, teachers, and more, to Xylon for educational exchanges. Their unique perspectives and practical skills often led to innovative solutions to problems that had stumped Xylonian scientists for years. As Earth began to benefit from Xylonian technology, Jake and Zara worked to ensure that these advancements were used responsibly. They established ethics committees comprised of both humans and Xylonians to oversee the integration of alien tech into Earth society, always mindful of potential negative consequences. One of Jake's proudest achievements was the introduction of Xylonian medical technology to Earth. Diseases that had once been death sentences became easily treatable, and human lifespans began to extend. But with these advancements came new challenges, ethical, societal, and economic, that Jake and Zara worked tirelessly to address. Of course, not everything was smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings still occurred, and there were times when the alliance was strained. But Jake and Zara faced each challenge together, their partnership a living example of what could be achieved when different species worked in harmony. 10 years after their wedding, Jake and Zara stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first joint human-Xylonian space habitat. The station hung in space between Earth and Xylon, a shining symbol of cooperation and a hub for interspecies scientific research. As they looked out at the stars, Zara's hand found Jake's, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that had become second nature. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she asked, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. Jake shook his head, a smile playing on his lips. "Sometimes I still think I'm going to wake up back in that dingy New York bar," he admitted. "But then I look at you, at all we've accomplished together, and I know this is real." Zara's skin rippled with patterns of affection and pride. Thanks to the nexus of understanding, Jake could read these signals as easily as he could read a human smile. "We've done so much," she said, "but there's still so much more to do." Jake nodded, his expression turning thoughtful. "I've been thinking about that, actually. We've made great strides in human-Thylonian relations, but we're not the only species out there. It's time we started reaching out further, building connections with other civilizations. Zara's eyes widened, her skin pulsing with excitement. A galactic federation? She asked. Jake, that's ambitious even for you. Jake grinned. Hey, if there's one thing humans are good at, it's dreaming big. Besides, we've proven that different species can work together for the greater good. Why not take that to the next level? As they discussed the possibilities, Jake felt a familiar sense of excitement and anticipation. This was why he had accepted that crazy proposal all those years ago. The chance to push boundaries, to explore the unknown, to bring people and non-people together in ways never before imagined. Suddenly, an alert chimed from the console nearby. Jake checked the message and his eyebrows rose. Well, speaking of reaching out to new civilizations, he said, it looks like we've just received a transmission from a previously unknown species in the Andromeda galaxy. They're requesting first contact. Zara's skin flickered with a mix of surprise and determination. Well then, Ambassador Anderson, she said with a teasing lilt to her voice, shall we go make some new friends? Jake laughed, squeezing her hand. Let's do it, Princess Zora. Together, as always. As they made their way to the communication center, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a disillusioned bartender to a key figure in shaping the future of multiple civilizations, it was a path he could never have imagined. He thought about the challenges they had faced and overcome: cultural clashes, assassination attempts, interstellar politics. Through it all, it had been the combination of human adaptability and Tylonian wisdom, his and Zora's complementary strengths, that had seen them through. As they prepared to make first contact with yet another alien species, Jake felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the twist of fate that had brought him to Cylon, for the love he had found with Zora, and for the opportunity to be part of something so much bigger than himself. Whatever challenges this new contact might bring, whatever the future held for humanity and its alien allies, Jake knew one thing for certain: as long as they faced it together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibilities, and Jake Anderson, once a simple bartender from New York, now a bridge between worlds, was ready to explore them all, hand in hand with the alien princess who had stolen his heart and helped him change the course of history. As the transmission from the new alien species came through, Jake and Zora exchanged a look of excitement and determination. With a shared nod, they stepped forward to greet the unknown, ready to write the next chapter in their incredible journey. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and they were going to shape it together, one star, one world, one connection at a time.